Good evening. Thanks for joining us this evening. Tonight, I am talking with Sir Ashley. He's got a amazing channel out in Charlotte where he talks about Charlotte real estate and everything to do with Charlotte. And he is joining me tonight, and we are going to compare Raleigh and Charlotte. Welcome to the channel, Sir Ashley. Thanks for joining me.
Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it. Long overdue.
Yes, absolutely. This is going to be a lot of fun. So I actually emailed Sir Ashley, like a year ago, and he didn't email me back. And he finally called me a couple of days ago. He's like, hey, we need to do something. And so we're doing it finally. So just to give you all an introduction here, we're going to talk about a handful of things here. I got my cheat sheet. We're going to talk about the number one thing in each of our cities that makes it unique, that people love about our cities. We're going to talk about the types of people that would not be happy living in Charlotte, would not be happy living in Raleigh. We're going to talk about our schools in each of our areas. We're going to talk about the different types of employment and jobs that we have in each of our areas. We're going to talk about transportation. Charlotte's got some cool transportation options that we don't have here in Raleigh, so we're going to compare those things. We're going to talk a little bit about housing, and then the big thing we're going to talk tonight about is racism. Sir Ashley's willing to go have that discussion with me, which I'm pretty excited about that, actually, to be able to actually talk about like important real issues that people and questions that people have about moving to this area. But we're going to talk about all of that tonight. Let's start with the number one thing that people love about your city in Charlotte. What is that?
Now, this might sound like a generic answer, but I can dive into it.
Okay.
But people love the location. And the location has different tributaries, the convenience, but more so the weather that the location provides. It has all four seasons. I was talking to somebody today, sometimes all four seasons in the same week. I almost thought it was hailing today, but it wasn't. It was just a very heavy rain.
Yeah.
So that's what they love about it. Just the sheer location, proximity to mountains, to the beach, and then just the weather.
Do you guys get tornadoes out that way more than we do here in Raleigh?
So we do not get tornadoes. We get a lot of tornado warnings.
Okay.
So we do get a lot of tornado warnings, but as far as actual tornadoes, I would say maybe one in the past 5 years that I'm aware of.
Yeah, that's about how it plays out in Raleigh too. Well, they'll warn you and be like, yeah, something's happening, and it never does, and it just blows over or whatever. So yeah. Okay, well, let me answer the question for Raleigh. So I think there's a couple of things that are unique about Raleigh that people specifically come here for. And I like to say that Raleigh is the boring city compared to Charlotte. Like Charlotte's got so much, right? It does. Like Charlotte has so much. It's got all the sports. It's got all the like activities. And Raleigh, people come here because it's relaxing. They come here for parks. So I recently read that Wake County actually had an ordinance that requires 30% of our land to be green space. So all development that happens, we have to reserve 30% for green space. That can be parks, that can be greenways, that can be farmland, that can be, but it's got to be reserved as green space. So it keeps it pretty like natural, and people love that about here. We've got like a million miles of greenways, and people just love being able to get out into nature. And the other thing I thought was really interesting, did you read, oh gosh, I think it was maybe NerdWallet, one of these lists that they put out there of like best cities. I think it was NerdWallet. They just put one out, and Raleigh was number one I think the first time. I think we've made like number two. And I think what's happened is that Austin has finally gotten so expensive that that Raleigh is, Raleigh's now number one. But one of the things that they said in that list is safety. Like our crime rates here compared to like any other city, not even Charlotte, but like any other city. It's just so, and I don't know why. I genuinely do not know why.
Well, it's because y'all are so far from each other.
Yeah, we do have, it's not as dense, it's not as urban, it's not as densely populated. Probably you get annoyed by your neighbors, it's too close. It's like,
I mean, most violence occurs between people that know each other, right? So
sure,
I mean, if you're so far away, you're like, okay, I can't really do anything.
That makes sense.
Another reason why I think North Carolina in general has less crime, and even Raleigh
And
and
Charlotte, yeah.
Charlotte is not gonna say everyone, but I mean people really enjoy being able to take advantage of their Second Amendment right.
Yeah.
And if you know that, okay, there's a possibility of your neighbor having a concealed weapon or whatever it may be, you think twice. Not saying like that's your number one thought, but you're just
Right.
cognizant of that, and you tend to work things out other ways.
That's interesting. I never thought about it that way, and I've never wondered if my neighbors had guns. But then
Yeah.
again, I guess I've never done anything that might make them want to get violent with me. So
I'm not. So I saw something recently, and this is not going to put Charlotte in a good light, but it was just a shooting on highway on 85 recently, like
okay.
cars shooting at each other. I'm like, this again, people are cognizant or typically cognizant of that person next to you might be carrying. So
Right.
better think twice before you do something.
Okay, so that's a really good point.
Mhm.
I-85 goes through Charlotte.
Yeah.
We don't have any interstate highway that goes through Raleigh, and right there is probably why there's less crime here than anywhere else. So,
Yeah.
yeah, really, I bet that's 100% it right there.
Another, you mentioned the greenways and the trees and everything. One thing that I didn't even think about until you mentioned it, Charlotte has tons of greenways as well. Not as much as Raleigh, not as
Mhm.
much, but for a major city, it definitely has tons of green space. And we're known as the Canopy City. As
Uh-huh.
far as when you go to some of these older neighborhoods, the tree canopy is just beautiful.
Mhm.
So you have that. And another reason why people love Charlotte is, which I kind of take for granted, is its cleanliness. People always
Okay.
talk about how clean it is. Granted, we have our warts, we have our areas that
Sure.
aren't so clean like any other city, but in general, we have a very clean city.
Do you feel like that's because we're in the South and it's bad manners to leave trash? I mean,
um, I didn't even think about that. Um, I guess so, but I never put two and two together.
yeah, I don't know.
Yeah,
I mean, I
yeah,
grew up in South Florida and you grew up in
mhm,
New York. So,
yeah.
in South Florida, people throw trash. I mean, they just do. I don't know, but you're from upstate New York,
I'm from
right?
upstate New York. Yeah, yeah.
Are like the suburbs, like whereabouts?
I'm from Rochester, so it's
Oh,
a
okay.
city. It's the third largest city in New York.
Oh, okay, okay,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
it's dwarfed by New York City,
No,
so
most
probably
definitely,
everybody
most
thinks it's
definitely.
not a city probably because
Yeah,
of
no. Everybody, as soon as I say upstate New York, they brush me off. So
yeah, 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 yeah.
yeah.
Okay. Okay, so what kind of person do you think would not enjoy living in Charlotte?
There's two types of people, but the first type of person is somebody that loves old architecture,
Mm,
history, historic
mm.
buildings, landmines, landmarks. Sorry, landmines. Thing over here thinking about Ukraine,
Oh, yes, jeez.
but yeah. So like we have those, but it's not prevalent. It's not in your face. And if you want that old charm in a city and
Mm.
that culture that comes with that, Charlotte is not the place for you, because we're growing and we haven't quite captured our identity yet. So we don't have just that historical context that other cities do.
No, maybe like it's not a strong personality in Charlotte.
Yeah, because we're such a melting pot.
Yeah,
It brings in so many different people and ideas and cultures that we don't have that one identity.
that's what you're known for.
Yeah,
Like Raleigh, I think is becoming like a tech city, but this is
yeah,
a newer thing. You
hmm,
know what I mean? Like Apple's coming here, so it's like I would say even in the last 5 to 7 years, it's just really kind of that's become a real part of its identity.
yeah.
So I think we're both kind of like young and growing. I think you're right. Like, and also being from New York, there's a lot more history up there. It's just older. There's a lot of
It is
older
older. Yeah,
stuff,
yeah.
So yeah,
Hmm.
I could see that. So SH9 says, how do you guys feel about the Triad area of North Carolina? Do you know
Yeah,
anything
yeah.
about the Triad?
I do. I do. I've had some rentals in the Triad area. I frequent there. I actually believe that it is a very undervalued part of the Carolinas, and talking about a good bang for your buck, where it's underpopulated for the most part right now. You can get in. You may laugh at this. I'm actually helping a client right now. You can find properties for 300, 350, which I'm not
Which
sure.
sounds like a lot of yeah, around here it's a lot of money. It used to be 100 or 150 out
Yeah,
in the
but
Triad.
you can find, but I mean, even still, like now, it's tough to find new construction for under 450 in the Charlotte area. You can find it for
Right.
less than 300, and then up to 350 in the triangle. I mean, in the Triad area. So
Right.
it's a good value.
Yeah, I'm actually hearing people talking about moving to the Triad to work
Mm-hmm.
here.
Yeah,
To work for companies here. Like they're like,
uh-huh.
well, I'm only going to be going into the office once a week, so I can just commute in. It's an hour and 15 minutes.
Yep.
You know, we can get into a great school zone for not that much money, and I think it's undervalued too. And I heard recently that Greensboro, there's a new company coming there. Oh gosh, what are those planes called? They're not around anymore. But like there's like ultrasonic planes that are like super fast that used to, you know,
Yeah,
they don't
I
even
can't
exist.
think of it.
But yeah, they're like ultrasonic planes or something, and they go like
Yeah.
twice as fast as like regular commercial
Oh
airlines.
wow.
Anyway, there's a
Okay.
company developing them out in Greensboro now. And they're
Yeah.
talking about having them on the ground in commercial fleets by 2029.
Oh wow.
So there's going to be a lot of engineering jobs out there. So I think you're right. I think it really is a growing area that is worth
And
getting into.
and the thing is, so we hear, I don't know about you, I'll speak for myself. I hear
Sure.
an hour commute and I'm like, oh no, that's awful. But if you're coming from
Yes.
a major city, I've lived in
We're used to
LA and whatnot, like that's just that's a Monday, right?
it.
Like, so even while in law school, I had somebody, classmate, live in Greensboro, but travel to Durham for law school every single day. And I'm like, how are you doing that? I
That's
don't like
insane.
being in traffic 10 minutes, but
Right.
it's only an hour. I can
Yeah.
do it. So
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah,
People are used to it and they're okay
yeah,
with it. And they're willing to buy a really nice house to be 45 minutes or an hour outside of the city. Yeah.
yeah.
I can't do that. That's not for me.
I'm
After
with you.
living here as long as, I mean, I grew
Mhm.
up in South Florida where traffic was horrendous. Um, and I never want to do that again. So I'm staying right in the middle of the city where I am. I'm like, 15 minutes from downtown Raleigh, and that's as far as I
Mhm.
want to get. All right, let's see. We got some other comments here. April's moving to Charlotte in July, and she's super excited. That's awesome, April. Miss Tenacious is thinking about North Carolina. Your American friend. We bought in a Raleigh suburb, but loved Charlotte too. Parts of Charlotte actually reminded us a lot of Irvine, California. NC's really great. That's interesting. I haven't been to California. I'm not familiar with it, but have you been to California?
Yes. My daughter was actually born in California. So yeah, I used to
Oh,
live
okay.
out there. So I love California. It's just it's a whole different way of life. Well, different part. All of California is not the same. I lived
Right.
in West Hollywood, so not to get too off left field, but I like to think I'm liberal, right?
Okay.
I like to think I'm liberal, but when you live in California, you realize, and you're not from California, or not you realize just how conservative you really are.
Not that liberal, not California
Yeah,
liberal.
I'm not that liberal. So Charlotte gives me that good medium to where I'm a
Right.
liberal, but
That's a
I'm
really
not
good
that
point.
liberal.
I
So
tell
yeah,
people it's very
yeah,
purple here. It's,
yeah, it
you're
is.
going to have a conservative neighbor, you're going to have a liberal neighbor.
Yes.
There
Hmm.
and everybody gets along,
Yeah.
and I think that's a really good thing about this area.
Hmm.
All right. Let's talk about the school system. Okay, specifically in Raleigh, we have a county-wide school system. So it's Wake County
Yeah.
Schools. Do you guys have a county-wide or do you have city
We
schools?
do.
You do.
No,
Okay.
we have countywide. Well, we have several counties that make up the Charlotte area, right? We have Mecklenburg County,
Mhm.
and then you have York County, which is South Carolina, but it's technically the Charlotte area. So
Gotcha.
yeah, it's different areas, but yeah, I mean, we can go by. I can touch on all of them, but Mecklenburg County is the big
Let's
one.
just focus on that because it's too
Yep,
much, I think, to do all of them. But
yep.
so I was just curious, do you guys have like here we have a lot of magnet schools
Hmm.
and charter schools,
Yes, yeah.
and there's this huge thing with the lotteries. And so everybody in November, goes and tours all the different schools. Oh, and we also have year-round schools. Do you guys have year-round schools?
We don't have too many year-round schools.
Okay.
There's a couple private schools that are year-round, but as far as public schools or charter schools, not that many.
Yeah, we have a lot of year-round public schools.
No, my brother was in a year-round public school in the Raleigh area. So.
Oh, okay. Okay, cool. Yeah. All right. So anything interesting to share about the Charlotte public school system that people should know?
I mean, it's not as good as Wake counties.
Yeah.
As far as Mecklenburg County, but we have excellent schools. You have, it depends on your age, obviously your child's age, but excellent high schools. Audrey Kell, you have, what is the other one? Lake Norman Charter, Myers Park. You just have some very good public schools, and not to detract, but we have excellent private schools too. And reason why I have to mention private schools is because when people are coming here to the North Carolina, to the Charlotte area, you're looking at schools, and in DC, where I've lived, private school costs $40,000 a year.
Right. Yeah.
And that's what they're conditioned, like that's what private schools cost. Well, here private schools is $10,000 to $12,000 a year.
Right.
And people are shocked. They're like, "Oh, so you mean I can afford to send all my kids to a private school for the price of one?"
Interesting.
That it would in DC.
I hadn't thought of it like that. I know some of our better private schools are more like 25,000. But they do. I know there are some that are in the 10 to 15.
Yeah, we got like 10 to 12. If you go crazy, you're talking about maybe 18. But that's not typical.
Yeah. Okay. So let's talk about jobs and like the economy, the Charlotte economy. What types of, I know banking is a big thing. Is there anything?
Well, banking and healthcare. Those are the two big ones. You have Novant Health, you have Atrium Health. So if you're in the financial services arena, as far as banking or healthcare, Charlotte is the place for you. But a lot of people don't realize that we are huge on energy. Duke Energy is massive here. So we have that industry as well. So, tons of opportunities. And another overlooked one is because I'm a lawyer. I did practice law. There's tons of lawyers and law jobs here, whether it be doc review companies and everything like that. Tons of opportunities to where typically document review jobs go to LA, Chicago, New York. And they're like, well, we can get all these qualified attorneys to review these documents and pay them not as much, because the cost of living here in Charlotte is less than it is in New York or LA or Chicago. So it's tons of opportunity for contract positions. So no, we have Charlotte is where you need to be.
So how has the work from home, like the COVID kind of work from home culture changed Charlotte? Have you seen much of an impact because of that?
You have a lot of people hating going back to work.
People don't want to go back to work.
No, people don't want to go back to work because a couple reasons. They realized that they were just as productive, if not more so, at home.
More
productive at home, and the sheer fact of their hours may vary, may differ. They may be working till 7, but if they need to go run to the store in the middle of the day, they can, as long as everything gets done. And they realize they have so much more of their time back because they're not in traffic for 45 minutes
a day
exactly 45 minutes to and from, and you can really open up your computer and start working at 8 if you wanted to, as opposed to
in your pajamas sometimes,
Yeah, exactly. Pajama pants and just have the top and then be good to go.
I have shifted. I will often work for an hour or two in my pajamas and then go take a shower, get ready, start my day. You know what I mean? It's just really shifted the way that I work. For me, and I like it better. I like the flexibility personally. A couple comments here. So Miss Tenacious says she's in Northern California. I want to be closer to the Caribbean because I love vacationing there. 17 islands down and more to go. Wow, that's awesome. Yeah, I hear you. And also, I guess it's probably easier to get to Europe from here as well if you want to travel there. Your American friends from Orange County, California, and you just described the politics there. Los Angeles is nuts. The Raleigh area especially carries a lot like Orange County, California. I mean that in a good way. Well, that's good. David Shemansky says, going back to healthcare, who are the biggest healthcare employers in the area?
Yep. So it is Novant Health and Atrium Health. Those are the two biggest employers.
Okay.
And actually, I think Atrium Health is the biggest employer in Charlotte.
Okay, cool.
Actually, no, that's Bank of America. Sorry. But then Atrium Health is like 3. So, yeah. Okay.
So Charlotte's a lot like Orange County politics, and Los Angeles is nuts. Raleigh is a lot like Orange County. So they're both kind of a lot like Orange County. Interesting. Okay. So I wanted to talk a little bit about jobs in North Carolina. So we have like lots of different industries here. We've got the tech industry. We've got life sciences. 400 out of 600 life sciences companies in North Carolina are here in RTP. And we've got clean tech. We're the number 2 state for solar power capacity. We're the 3rd fastest growing clean tech sector, and we're the top 10 city where jobs will be in 2020 in clean tech, and also academia. So I think we've just got a lot of diversity in the types of jobs that are here in Raleigh. And again, I think you're right. Like Charlotte's kind of still trying to find itself a little bit. And I bet some of that will kind of like just shift over the next 10 or 15 years as different things kind of figure out where they're going to be. Because North Carolina as a state is a really good place to be for companies.
It is.
So we're just attracting so many companies. It'll be interesting to see what happens in Charlotte. I think Raleigh kind of has a more solidified like culture, like work culture here.
Yeah.
Are there other issues?
One thing.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, no, just one thing I wanted to also touch on. I would be remiss if I didn't say this. The automotive industry is huge here in Charlotte. NASCAR and just everything like that. It is big. You go to Mooresville. You go to Concord. It is all the racing teams are here.
There's multiple tracks, right?
Yeah. So it is big.
Charlotte that has that motorsports racing program, racing engineering program. Yeah.
And technology starting to come here. Actually, south of Charlotte and South Carolina, a lot of tech firms and stuff like that, but greater Charlotte area. But we're not on the scale of Raleigh just yet.
Right. Yeah. I feel like it'll get there over time. And maybe more engineering than, like the computery type stuff. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. Let's see. Are there issues of flooding in Charlotte, Durham, or Raleigh? Why don't you take that with Charlotte first, and then I'll talk about Raleigh.
No, there's no issues of flooding. Certain communities or neighborhoods have issues with flooding for the sheer fact they weren't the master plan, they weren't designed correctly. But as a whole, the area itself, no, you don't have to really worry about flooding. Just be aware if you're looking at housing, you don't want to be at the bottom of that hill in that subdivision.
Right. Yeah.
So just be cognizant of that. But no, I wouldn't say there's too much of an issue.
Yeah, I would say the same. I mean, I grew up in South Florida, so it was not unusual. I mean, you're at sea level, so if it rains, you're going to have water up to your thighs. I mean, you're just going to be walking through. I mean, that's just how it was there. But no, you don't really have that here. I mean, you do have there are some houses that you would need to check to see if it's in a flood zone.
Yeah.
And your insurance company would know that. Like when you check with the insurance company, they'll be able to tell you if they require flood insurance on it, if it's been required in the past. But it's not typical here. There are like Sir Ashley was saying, there are some areas that are a little more low lying, but overall the whole area is not, we don't have floods or anything. I live in Raleigh. I moved from New York City a year ago. Now I'm looking forward to moving to Charlotte. Any areas you recommend? I'm trying to stay north of Charlotte. You don't like Raleigh? Tell us what you don't like Raleigh about.
Come on, Jennifer.
And then maybe we can give better recommendations about Charlotte. So I'm going to put this up there. Jennifer, just put in the comments what you don't like about Raleigh and what you're trying to find in Charlotte. And then maybe we can give some better recommendations about that.
I mean, Charlotte, like you said, Charlotte has it all. We have the football team, we have the basketball team, we have the race cars, we have the baseball team, we have the professional soccer team.
She's probably bored in Raleigh. She's like, all these parks are boring. I need something to do.
Yeah. So no, that's how I felt when I was in Raleigh. When I first was in Raleigh, Durham area, I was bored. But now at this stage of my life, like boring is not bad. Boring is actually welcome. So
yeah, well, and that's the thing. I think, I think cities are for younger people a lot of times, or extroverts. I was reading about this the other day. Like people that are extroverts really like busy cities a lot more than people that are introverts. And I wondered, is Raleigh more of an introvert city because we like trees and quiet and stuff like that? I know I'm an introvert and I get like anxious with too many people around me. Yeah, she said yes, she's bored. Jennifer says she lives in Apex. It's beautiful, but a little expensive and nothing much to do. Okay, she's bored and she wants a little lower cost of living, which that sounds like Charlotte would be a better fit.
Yeah. So reason why I like Charlotte opposed to Raleigh and the Durham area, I used to live there, is because it does provide more options. Now, I might not take advantage of those options because I like to,
but they're there.
They're there. Like I want to be able to say no as opposed to not even being able to just partake when I want to.
So what are some of those things? What are some of those things that you like knowing's nearby, even if you don't?
Again, so the basketball, the Hornets, the football, we always have some kind of live music. And Raleigh's the same thing. Raleigh, Durham, we always have some kind of art or performance. Yes. Tons of plays, just those things. And then I like granted, Raleigh has this too, but the different restaurant options and everything like that, to where on any given night, for the most part, not any given week, not at any given night, because we're not that big of a city. Any given week, there's something to do, and you can choose what you want to, partake in.
Yeah. Your American friend says, boring or stable? I'm a total introvert and picked Raleigh. People call me and they're like, I want quiet. I want peace. I'm tired of exciting. I want to be able to just relax. And it is, I think when people get older and they have children, that's just more attractive to you than when you're younger and you want to be at a club every other night. You know what I mean? We have some clubs here. We do, but I don't know anything.
I like some of the rooftop bars in Raleigh. That was my place in law school. And even after graduation, some of the rooftop bars in Raleigh are fantastic.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, there's definitely some cool stuff here for sure.
But so Jennifer, you asked about north of Charlotte. I would say Huntersville. You have Mooresville. You have Cornelius. That might be a little too far out there. That's similar to Apex, but I say Huntersville, to where you're 10, 15 minutes outside of the city center, but you can get right into Charlotte without a problem.
Yeah. All right. Well, that sounds good. So she says, Raleigh's beautiful, but my husband and I do like trying new places, restaurants, going to games, etc. We're a family of 3, early 30s. I'm finding a lot of families here don't do much. Yeah, sometimes it's hard to get involved when you're new to an area, I think. And also just with COVID, I think it just is a little bit harder as things are kind of coming back. It's just a little, people are like out of their rhythm of doing stuff. Like, I mean, I'm the same. I'm like, I want to go out and do stuff, but I don't like remember how or something, it's very
and I'm with you. I'm not sure if I don't remember how, but then when you try to get acclimated back into doing things, you have concerns. I don't know, like personally, kids have some health concerns. Like, I want to get out there. The world is open back up, but do I want to expose my kid to, so it's always that hesitation. And moving and trying to live in a new city during these last 2 years, I can see how trying and difficult that may be.
Yeah, for sure. Ms. Tenacious says, I don't mind being bored. I'm 61, but young at heart, would prefer a 55 plus new home community. Are you looking for that in Charlotte or Raleigh or either one? Let us know in the comments. You're welcome, Jennifer. All right. So the next thing on our list is transportation. Do people use the train in Charlotte? And has COVID changed that? People working from home, has that changed because of COVID?
So it did change. I mean, it put a halt on it. Not many people took advantage of it, but
Mhm.
now that it's open back up and people are working back uptown and everything, it's packed. The
Oh,
light
really?
rail, because you can get, it's very convenient to go park. Right now, the light rail only goes north and south about 10-15 miles.
Okay.
They're going to expand it to go east and west over, how cities are. They say
Right.
they're going to expand, but in 40 years, they'll probably be
Right.
finished.
We'll be dead,
Um,
whatever.
yeah, in 40 years, we'll be finished. But people are taking advantage of it to where, they park, jump on it, and take it uptown, not have to worry about, traffic or anything like that.
Mhm.
So people do take advantage of it. It's about 5 million plus riders a year. So,
Wow, that's awesome.
yeah. And we have a good bus system too. It's just, it's very time, plan ahead if you plan on taking the buses.
Gotcha. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like that here in Raleigh too. We have, I
Mhm.
think it's a decent bus system. They really expanded it over the last few years. It wasn't very good, but they've invested in a lot more buses and more stops and everything. So it's getting better. They built a whole
Yeah.
new bus station.
So nice.
So it's definitely getting a lot better than it used to be for sure. Um, in terms of retirement, what neighborhoods would you suggest are as good areas to live in, nearer to public transportation, not too isolated in the suburbs, looking for condos, not single? Are you looking in Charlotte or are you looking in
I think
Raleigh?
she's looking in Raleigh. Cecilia?
Oh, in Raleigh. Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
in Raleigh. Retirement in Raleigh neighborhoods. So the thing is, we don't have fantastic public transportation. So you probably want to be in Raleigh, not in some of the suburbs. Um, and North Raleigh is really nice. It depends on why don't you send me an email? Because I need to ask you some more questions, but send me an email and we'll talk later. Okay, so next on our list is housing. So I pulled these numbers and these might be a little bit different than what you, because I just kind of just grabbed this real quick. But according to Zillow, the median house price in Raleigh right now is 423,000, and in Charlotte it's 367. Would you say
Yeah.
that sounds about?
This that's right on. 370, 367. It's right there.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then so and your numbers were a little bit different, but I pulled that Raleigh currently has 440 active homes and Charlotte has 959,
Mhm.
which sounds like a lot more. But Charlotte's a bigger city than we are.
Yeah. It's a
So
bigger city. It's a bigger city. And when you look at those active homes, it comes down to, are those homes desirable? Like, not many people want 2 bedrooms.
okay,
You
gotcha.
know what I mean? Like, is it you want at least a minimum of 3? So yeah. No,
Yeah,
it's inventory is tight here. It's not as tight as Raleigh, and I think that explains a little
the
bit
difference in
why Raleigh
price.
prices are
Yes,
what they are, because it is that much more demand and not enough supply. So that bumps the price up.
I think because it's we have so many different industries here,
Yep.
so many different types of people that do so many different types of work are coming
Hmm.
here, and so it does put a lot more pressure on the housing inventory for sure. I think you're right about that. Okay, so our last thing on our last topic is talking about diversity. So I'm really actually looking forward to this conversation. We didn't get a lot of time to talk about it before we hopped on here.
Yeah.
But one thing that people often ask me, even in the comment section of my videos or when they talk to me, is the South racist? And am I going to be comfortable? Because the
Yeah.
people, very diverse group of people that call me, and they're worried about that. So I'm going to let Sir Ashley talk about that because I'm a white girl, so I maybe don't have as much experience with that. But
Well, one, I have to say, I get that a lot. I get it a lot, and so I appreciate you having the wherewithal to be able to ask and present this on your platform. Not many people would do so. So thank you.
yeah, absolutely, it's
Um,
an important topic.
it is. It's very important, especially I believe it's one of the utmost importance when considering where you want to be and raise your family. You want everybody safe and stuff. So, is the South racist? I believe that's a loaded question because, um, I mean, we're in America, right? And I grew up in upstate New York. And I can say that the most racism I've experienced was in upstate New York, and I've been in the South since 2002 as a family. So is the South racist? Yeah, depending on where you go, it is.
Mm-hmm.
And then we can get into it, but it's not a South problem. It's an American problem. So
yeah. Well, a people problem, maybe.
yeah, exactly.
I don't know that it's necessarily American. I think everywhere, people fear what they don't know. And so, people are uncomfortable with people that are different than them often, not always.
And what I think is, and I think you hit the nail on the head where you say people are uncomfortable with what they don't know. And what I try to explain and tell people is like, just have a dialogue, have a conversation, and you will realize, regardless of your preconceived notions or various things or what you may have been indoctrinated with, like you realize whoever you're speaking to, main concern is their family, their well-being, their safety, the same concerns you have.
Right.
So it's not much other than our skin color that really separates, the thinking and thought process.
Sure. So I'd said earlier that I feel like, from my perspective, which is limited, of course, but I feel like in the South, there's less segregation than there is in other parts of the country. And that just comes from like other people that I've talked to about where they're coming from and what it's like. And I'm like, man, everybody kind of lives here together. Everybody kind of, it's not like, if you're white, you never see people of any other color. They're like your neighbors, would you say that's an accurate?
I would say it's accurate to a degree. It really depends on where you're located, right? And I believe we are a little bit spoiled because where I am, I'm in Charlotte, and it's in Charlotte, but it's like a suburb of Charlotte, and but it feels like a suburb. It's in the city limits. My neighbors, I have Black neighbors, white neighbors, Indian neighbors, Asian neighbors,
right?
White. And so I have like my bubble might not be indicative of the rest of the Charlotte area, because there are areas that are monolithic where you have just one race and everything like that. But the thing is, one thing I've realized is when going into the house or the banking industry, you're hit, and even the healthcare field, all these different cultures on a daily basis. So you're going to be exposed. It's just up to that individual how much they're willing to be exposed and to open up their mind.
Mm-hmm. Yep, that makes sense. We think NC is very diverse and love it. We're surprised by this. Yes, Ellen, less segregation than where we lived in California. Surprising, right? Yeah, I hear that a lot. I hear that a lot from people that call, that it's less segregated here. It actually doesn't surprise me, honestly. But I've lived here for 20 something years. So, all right. Well, if nobody has any other questions, I think this was a great live. Thank you so much, Sir Ashley. If y'all have any questions for either one of us, feel free to email us. We're glad to answer questions and give specifics about your situation. But thank you all for joining us this evening, and we will see you all next time.
Thank you, Ellen. Thank you for having me on. I'll talk to you all later.
All righty. Bye-bye.
Bye.